The spirit catches you and you fall down. A Hmong child, her American doctors, and the collision of two cultures. Author Anne Fadiman. Bird. If Lyali had been born in the highlands of northwest Laos, where her parents and 12 of her brothers and sisters were born, her mother would have squatted on the floor of the house that her father had built from axe-hewn planks thatched with bamboo and grass. The floor was dirt, but it was clean. Her mother, Fawa, sprinkled it regularly with water to keep the dust down, and swept it every morning and evening with a broom she had made of grass and bark. She used a bamboo dustpan, which she had also made herself, to collect the faces of the children who were too young to defecate outside, and emptied its contents in the forest. Even if Hona had been a less fastidious housekeeper, her newborn babies wouldn't have gotten dirty, since she never let them actually touch the floor. She remains proud to this day that she delivered each of them into her own hands, reaching between her legs to ease out the head, and then letting the rest of the body slip out onto her bent forearms. No birth attendant was present, though if her throat became dry during labor, her husband, now Count, was permitted to bring her a cup of hot water as long as he averted his eyes from her body, because Fawa believed that moaning or screaming would ward the bird. She labored in silence, with the exceptions of an occasional prayer to her ancestors. She was so quiet that although most of her babies were born at night, her older children slept undisturbed on a communal bamboo pallet a few feet away, and woke only when they heard the cry of their new brother or sister. After each birth, now Cow cut the umbilical cord with heated scissors and tied it with string. Then Fawa washed the baby with water and she had carried from the stream, usually in the early phases of labor, in a wooden and bamboo pack barrel strapped to her back. Fawa conceived, carried, and bore all her children with ease, but had there been any problems, she would have had recourse to a variety of remedies that were commonly used by the Hmong, the hill tribe to which her family belonged. If a Hmong couple failed to produce children, they could call in a Sif Nip, a shaman who was believed to have the ability to enter a trance, summon a posse of helpful familiars, ride a winged horse over the 12 mountains between the earth and the sky, cross an ocean inhabited by dragons, and, starting with tribes of food and money, and, if necessary, working up to a necromantic sort, negotiate for his parents' health with the spirits who lived in the realms of the unseen. A Siv Nip might be able to curb infertility by asking the couple to sacrifice a dog, a cat, a chicken, or a sheep. After animal's throat was cut, Siv Nip would string a rope bridge from the doorpost to the marriage bed, over which the soul of the couple's future baby, which had been detained by a malevolent spirit called a deb, could now freely travel to earth. One could also take certain precautions to avoid becoming infertile in the first place. For example, no Hmong women of childbearing age would ever think of setting foot inside a cave, because a particularly unpleasant kind of dab sometimes lived there who liked to eat flesh and drink blood, and could make his victim sterile by having sexual intercourse with her. Once a Hmong woman became pregnant, she could ensure the health of her child by paying close attention to her food cravings. If she craved gingers and failed to eat it, her child would be born with an extra fingers or toe. If she craved chicken flesh and did not eat it, her child would have a blemish near its ear. If she craved eggs and did not eat them, her child would have a lumpy head. When a Hmong woman felt the first pangs of labor, She would hurry home from the rice of opium fields, where she had continued to work throughout her pregnancy. It was important to reach her own house, or at least the house of one of her husband's cousins, because if she gave birth anywhere else, a death might injure her. A long or arduous labor could be eased by drinking the water in which a key had been boiled. In order to unlock the birth canal, by having her family array bowls of charcoal water around the room and chant prayers over them, or, if the difficulty stemmed from having treated an elder member of the family with insufficient respect, by washing the offended relative's fingertips and apologizing like crazy until the relative finally said, "I forgive you." Soon after the birth, while the mother and baby were still lying together next to the fire pit, the father dug a hole at least 2 feet deep in the dirt floor and buried the placenta. If it was a girl, her placenta was buried under her parents' bed, and if it was a boy, his placenta was buried in a place of greater honor near the base of the house central's wooden pillar, in which a male spirit, a domestic guardian who held up the roof of the house and watched over its residents, made his home. The placenta was always buried with the smooth side, the side that had faced the fetus inside the womb, turned upward, since if it was upside down, the baby might vomit after nursing. If the baby's face erupted in spots, that meant the placenta was being attacked by ants underground, and boiling water was poured into the burial hole as an insecticide. In the Hmong language, the word for placenta means jacket. It's considered one's first and finest garment. When a Hmong dies, his or her soul must travel back from place to place, retracing the path of its life geography until it reaches the burial place of its placental jacket and puts it on. Only after the soul is properly dressed in the clothing in which it was born can it continue its dangerous journey past murderous dogs and giant poisonous caterpillars, around man-eating rocks and impassable oceans, to the place beyond the sky where it's reunited with its ancestor, and from which it will someday be sent to be reborn at the soul of a new baby. If the soul cannot find its jacket, it's condemned to an eternity of wandering, naked and alone. Because the Lees are among the 150,000 Hmong who have fled Laos since their country fell to communist forces in 1975, they do not know if their house is still standing, or if the 5 male and 7 female placentas that now count buried under the dirt floor are still there. They believe that half of the placentas have already been put to their final use, since 4 of their sons and 2 of their daughters died of various causes before the Lees came to the United States. The Lees believe that someday the souls of most of the rest of their family will have a long way to travel, since they will have to retrace their steps from Merced, California, where the family has spent 15 of its 70 years in this country, to Portland, Oregon, where they lived before Merced, to Honolulu, Hawaii, where the airplanes from Thailand first landed, to 2 Thai refugee camps, and finally back to their home village in Laos. The Lee's 13th child, Mai, was born in a refugee camp in Thailand. Her placenta was buried under their hut. Their 14th child, Laya, was born in the Merced Community Medical Center, a modern public hospital that serves an agricultural county in California Central Valley, where many Hmong refugees have resettled. Laya's placenta was incinerated. Some Hmong women have asked the doctors at MCMC, as the hospital is commonly called, if they could take their babies' placentas home. Several of the doctors have acquiesced, packing to the placentas in plastic bags or take-out containers from the hospital's cafeteria. Most have refused, in some cases because they have assumed that the women plan to eat the placentas and have found that idea disgusting, and in some cases because they have feared that the possible spread of hepatitis B, which is carried by at least 15% of the Hmong refugees in the United States. Fawa never told to us, since she speaks no English, and when she delivered Laya, no one present spoke Hmong. In any case, the Lee's apartment had a wooden floor covered with wall-to-wall carpeting, so burying the placenta would have been a difficult proposition. When Laya was born, at 7:09 p.m. on July 19, 1982, Fawa was lying on her back on a steel table, her body covered with a sterile drapes, her genital area painted with a brown betadine solution, with a high wattage lamp trained to her perineum. There were no family members in the room. Gary Tilson, a family practice resident who did the delivery, noted in the chart that in order to speed the labor, he had artificially ruptured Fawa's amniotic sac by poking it with a foot-long plastic amni hook, that no anesthesia was used, that no episiotomy, and an incision to enlarge the vaginal opening was necessary, and that after the birth, Fawa received a standard intravenous dose of pitocin to contract her uterus. Dr. Toshens also noted that Lyle was a healthy infant whose weight 8 pounds 7 ounces and conditions were appropriate for gestational age, an estimate he based on observation alone, since Fawa had received no prenatal care, was not certain how long she had been pregnant, and could not have told Dr. Toshens even she had known. Fawa thinks that Laya was her largest baby, although she isn't sure, since none of her 13 older children were weighed at birth. Laya's Apgar scores, an assessment of a newborn infant's heart rate, respiration, muscle tone, color, and reflexes, were good. 1 minute after her birth, she scored 7 on a scale of 10, and 4 minutes later she scored 9. When she was 6 minutes old, her color was described as pink, and her activity as crying. Laya was shown briefly to her mother. Then she was placed in a steel of plexiglass warmer, where a nurse fastened a plastic identification band around her wrist and recorded her footprint by inking the soles of her feet with a stamp pad and pressing them against a newborn identification form. After that, Laya was removed to the central nursery, where she received an injection of vitamin K in one of her thighs to prevent hemorrhagic disease, was treated with 2 drops of silver nitrate solutions in each eye to prevent an infection from gonococcus bacteria, and was bathed with safeguard soap. Fawa's own date of birth was recorded on Laya's delivery room record as October 6, 1944. In fact, she has no idea when she was born, and on various other occasions during the next several years, she would inform MCMC personnel through English-speaking relatives such as nephew's wife who had helped her check into the hospitals for Laya's delivery, that her date of birth was October 6, 1942, or more frequently October 6, 1926. Not a single admitting clerk ever appears to have questioned the latter date, though it would imply that Fawa gave birth to Laya at the age of 55. Fawa is quite sure, however, that October is correct, since she was told by her parents that she was born during the seasons in which the opium fields are weeded for the second time and the harvested rice stalks are stacked. She invented the precise day of the month. Like the years, in order to satisfy the many Americans who have evinced an abhorrence of unfilled blanks on the innumerable forms the Lees have encountered since their admission to the United States in 1980. Most Hmong refugees are familiar with American trade and have accommodated it in the same way. Nako Lee has a first cousin who told the immigration officers that all 9 of his children were born of July 15 in 9 consecutive years, and this information was duly recorded on their residence alien documents. When Elia Lee was released from MCMC at the age of 3 days, her mother was asked to sign a piece of paper that read, "I certify that during the discharge procedure, I received my baby, examined it and determined that it was mine. I checked the ident A band parts sealed on the baby and on me and found that they were identically numbered 5043 and contained correct identifying information." Since Fawa cannot read and has never learned to recognize Arabic numerals, it's unlikely that she followed these instructions. However, she had been asked for her signature so often in the United States that she had mastered the capital forms of the 7 different letters contained in her name, Fawa Yang. The Yang and the Lees are amongst the largest of the Hmong clans. The other major ones are the Chas, the Changs, the Hangs, the Hers, the Kus, the Laos, the Moas, the Taos, the Vilas, the Sions, and the Vangs. In Laos, the clan name came first, but most Hmong refugees in the United States use it as a surname. Children belong to their father's clan. Women traditionally retain their clan name after marriage. Marrying a member of one's clan is strictly taboo. Fawa's signature is no less legible than the signature of most of MCMC's resident physicians in training, which, particularly if they are written toward the end of 24-hour shift, tend to resemble X. However, it has the unique distinction of looking different each time it appears on hospital documents. On this occasion, Fawa Yang was written as a single word. 1A is canted to the left and 1 to the right. The Y looks like an X, and the legs of the end undulate gracefully, like a child's drawing of a way. It's a credit to Fawa's general equanimity, as well as her characteristic desire not to think ill of anyone, that although she found Lia's birth a peculiar experience, she has few criticisms of the way the hospital handled it. Her doubts about MCMC in particular, and American medicine in general, would not begin to gather force until Lia had visited the hospital many times. On this occasion, she thought the doctor was gentle and kind. She was impressed that so many people were there to help her, and although she felt that the nurse who bathed Lia with safeguard did not get her quite as clean as she had gotten her newborns with Laotian stream water, her only major complaint concerned the hospital food. She was surprised to be offered ice water after the birth, since many Hmong believe that cold foods during the postpartum period make the blood congeal in the womb instead of cleansing it by flowing freely, and that a woman who does not observe the taboo against them will develop itchy skin and diarrhea in her old age. Fawa did accept several cups of what she remembers as hot black water. This was probably either tea or beef broth. Fawa is sure it wasn't coffee, which she had seen before and would have recognized. The black water was the only MCMC provided food that passed her lips during her stay in the maternity ward. Each day, Naka cooked and brought her the diet that is strictly prescribed for Hmong women During the 30 days following childbirth, steamed rice and chicken boiled in water, and 5 special postpartum herbs, which the Lees had grown for the purpose of the edge of the parking lot behind their apartment building. This diet was familiar to the doctors on the labor and delivery floor at the MCMC, whose assessments of it were fairly accurate gauges of their general opinion of the Hmong. One obstetrician, Raquel Arias, recalled, "The Hmong men carried these nice little silver cans to the hospital, but always had some kind of chicken soup in them and always smelled great." Another obstetrician, Robert Small, said, "They always brought some horrible stinky concoctions that smelled like the chicken had been dead for a week." Fawn never shared her meals with anyone, because there is a postpartum taboo against spilling grains of rice accidentally into the chicken pot. If that occurs, the newborn is likely to break out across the nose and cheek with light little white pimples, whose names in the Hmong language is the same as the word for rice. Some Hmong parents in Merced have given their children American names. In addition to many standard ones, these have included Kennedy, Nixon, Pajama, Guitar, Maine, after Merced's Main Street, and, until a nurse counselled otherwise, Baby Boy, which one mother, seeing it written on her son's hospital papers, assumed was the name the doctor had already chosen for him. The Lees chose to give their daughters a Hmong name, Laya. Her name was officially conferred in a ceremony called a Hu Plik, or shawl calling, which in Laos always took place on the 3rd day after birth. Until this ceremony was performed, a baby was not considered to be fully a member of the human race, and if it died during its first 3 days, it was not accorded the customary funerary rites. This may have been a cultural adaptation to the 50% infant mortality rate, a way of steeling Hmong mothers against the frequent loss of their babies during or shortly after childbirth by encouraging them to postpone their attachment. In the United States, the naming is usually celebrated at a later time, since on its 3rd day, a baby may still be hospitalized, especially if the birth was complicated. It took the Lee family about a month to save enough money from their welfare checks and from gifts from their relatives' welfare checks to finance a soul-calling party for Laya. Although the Hmong believe that illness can be caused by a variety of sources, including eating the wrong food, drinking contaminated water, being affected by change in the weather, failing to ejaculate completely during sexual intercourse, neglecting to make offering to one's ancestor, being punished for one's ancestors' transgressions, being cursed, being hit by a whirlwind, having a stone implanted in one's body by an evil spirit master, having one's blood sucked by a dab, pumping into a dab who lives in a tree or a stream, digging a well in dab's living place, catching sight of a dwarf female dab who eats earthworms, having a dab sit on one's chest while one is sleeping, doing one's laundry in a lake inhabited by a dragon, pointing one's finger at the full moon, touching a newborn mouse, killing a large snake, urinating on a rock that looks like a tiger, urinating on or kicking a benevolent house spirit, or having bird droppings fall on one's head. By far, the most common cause of illness is soul lost. Although the Hmong do not agree on just how many souls people have, estimates range from 1 to 32, the Lees believe there is only one. There is a general consensus that whatever the number, it is the life soul, whose presence is necessary for health and happiness, that tends to get lost. A live soul can become separated from its body through anger, grief, fear, curiosity, or wanderlust. The live souls of newborn babies are especially prone to disappearance, since they are so small, so vulnerable, and so precariously poised between the realm of the unseen, from which they have just traveled, and the realm of the living. Baby souls may wander away, drawn by bright colors, sweet sounds, or fragrant smells. They may leave if a baby is sad, lonely, or insufficiently loved by its parents. They may be frightened away by a sudden loud noise, or they may be stolen by a dab. Some Hmong are careful never to say aloud that a baby is pretty, lest a dab be listening. Hmong babies are often dressed in intricately embroidered hats, flower made several for Laya, which, when seen from a heavenly perspective, might full of predatory dab into thinking the child was a flower. They spend much of their time swaddled against their mother's back in cloth carriers called niyas, flower-made layas, several of these too, that have been embroidered with soul-retaining motifs, such as the pig pen, which symbolize enclosure. They may wear silver necklace fastened with soul-shaking locks. When baby or small children go on an outing, their parents may call loudly to their souls before the family returns home, to make sure that none remained behind. Among families in Merced can sometimes be heard doing this when they leave local parks after a picnic. None of these ploys can work, however, unless the soul calling ritual has already been properly observed. Its whole plight took place in the living room of her family's apartment. There were so many guests, all of them Hmong and most of them members of the Li and Yang clans, that it was nearly impossible to turn around. Fawa and Nokao were proud that so many people had come to celebrate their good fortune in being favored with such a healthy and beautiful daughter. That morning, Nokao had sacrificed a pig in order to invite the soul of one of Liar's ancestors, which was probably hungry and would appreciate an offering of food to be reborn in her body. After the guests arrived, the elder of the Yang clan stood at the apartment's open front door, facing East 12th Street, with 2 live chickens in a bag on the floor next to him, and chanted a greeting to Liar's soul. The 2 chickens were then killed, plucked, eviscerated, particularly boiled, retrieved from the cooking pot, and examined to see if their skulls were translucent and their tongues curled upward. Both signs that Liar's new soul was pleased to take up residence in her body, and that her name was a good one. If the signs had been inauspicious, the soul caller would have recommended that another name be chosen. After the reading of the auguries, the chickens were put back into cooking pot. The guests would later eat them and the pig for dinner. Before the meal, the soul caller brushed Liar's hands with a bundle of short white strings and said, "I'm sweeping away the ways of sickness." Then Liar's parents and all of the elders present in the room each tied a string around one of Liar's wrists in order to bind her soul securely to her body. Fawa and Naukar promised to love her. The elder blessed and prayed that she would have a long life and that she would never become sick.